Hey, Flowmies, it's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. So this week is going to be one of two best of episodes that we have for 2002. As many of you know, in Arizona, we get super busy during this time of year. So this helps me to kind of be able to still give some content to you, but also at the same time remind us of some of the awesome interviews that we had this year. So we're going to talk about parts of three different interviews that we had. So the first one is James Smith. So many of us know James if you've been in ITF for any length of time. Super great guy, just a really loving and caring family guy. And we're going to talk about a specific time in his business life where he hired an employee for the very first time, and then tragedy struck for that employee. And it's just a really touching interview, and how we sometimes as employers, that employee-employer relationship goes beyond just kind of a nominal secular relationship. And just how he had to learn how to deal with balancing compassion for his employee, but at the same time, making sure that his business continues running. So it's just a really touching interview. You're going to really enjoy it. So please listen into that. We're also going to speak with Dan Rinard. And those of us who've been in ITF for any length of time as well, we know Dan. He's just such a great guy, just super friendly, very giving. He talks a lot about his growth in his business and his changing of his mentality as he went from an employee at another company to owning his own business, and just the mentality that he had to kind of get out of in order to allow himself to grow, and just some of the philosophies that he has as a business owner. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And we're going to finish off with an interview with Anthony Padlo. Now, Anthony is one of the OG Flowmies. He was literally one of the first people to join ITF, along with a few of others of us. And he's just got a really good insight. He's come a long way. He also was a recipient of the Flowmie of the Year award along with James. And there's a reason why. And in this interview, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that he had to overcome, both health with himself, his family's health, just kind of the ups and downs of balancing your emotions with business ownership. You know, he had been an employee for decades, and then finally going out on his own, and just all the challenges that he had. And he gets to be interviewed by Corey, who many of you know as a mod for the ITF group. So this is a really neat episode to just see them interact with each other, and you get a feeling for what ITF is really about. So I know you're going to enjoy this. Please listen in. This is a really nice episode. If you don't really get a chance to listen to the Flowcast very often, this is just a nice taste of what you can look forward to in the future. So thanks again, Flowmies, and enjoy. Okay, so you're now year three, and I didn't want to talk about this because I think this is something that you went through the worst case scenario of hiring.
I did.
You know, when you first go from, hey, I'm working by myself, I've got control of everything, things are looking good, you know, and now I have a lot of work and I could probably hire, but I'm afraid to hire. What could possibly go wrong? So could you please share with the Flowmies a little bit about your experience, what happened,
Sure.
and just all the trauma that your business as a whole, both employer and employee, had to go through?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have gone back and forth for a very long time about whether I wanted to actually hire anybody. I've known for a while, and Kevin Hargis has really helped me work through this. I've known for a while that I wanted to stay small. Just growing a huge multi-million-dollar corporation was not what I wanted. I wanted to stay small and be a good steward of what God has given me, be a good steward of the people working for me. So I kind of dragged my feet a little bit on the hiring process, actually getting somebody. I started looking at people to hire within my own church, people who had young men who had good reputations, people that I thought would have a good work ethic. I knew their parents and what they were being taught, and knew that I could trust them. And out of the 4 or 5 people that I tried out and had shadow me, there's this one guy that just stood out every single time. His name is Ben, for everybody to know that. And Ben was the only one out of all of them who kept bugging me every month. Hey, when am I going to come work for you full time? When are you going to bring me on? When am I going to come work for you full time? And it went on like that for like a year and a half. And I just kind of hemmed and hawed. I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. And then, 2021 happened, and here I am, maxed out on as much work that I can handle by myself, booked a month out, and would like to take more on. So August 1st was his first start date. I brought him on, and August, historically, I say historically, I know we've only been in business for 3 years, but based on the past 3 years, August was one of our slowest months. Everybody, our typical client is a mom, because that's who gets the work, the work hired out to get the housework done. And August into September, moms are focused on getting their kids back to school, last ditch summer parties, that kind of stuff. So window cleaning is just not on the radar. And bringing Ben on in August, I assumed that I was going to take a hit, like I was going to slow down even more because of all the time that I'd have to spend in teaching him and training him and all that. And we actually doubled our sales for August from the previous year. So we went up from about a $3,000 month in August to about a $7,000 month in August for no reason, just because we could pump out 2 or 3.
No, it was reason. Is that you're now being known, right? So people are spending. You got the referrals going. You're getting a reputation. Right. So now people are looking to you, whereas they might have not before.
Right. So, and I've been very fortunate with my employee Ben, because he's one of those guys where he's just a natural. Like window cleaning just clicks. He takes pride in it. He stands back at the end of the job and is really just happy with how the windows looked. Yeah. Anytime I tell him to correct something, it's that one time and never again. He just fixes it.
That's awesome.
So, he didn't even really go through a real training period because he was just so good at it already.
Wow.
It was good enough. He was good enough that I was actually able to take a vacation in September and just be gone for a couple of weeks.
Sweet.
So that worked out really well for us. However, and this is what you were alluding to, very, very early in October, within about the first week of October, his 2-year-old son suddenly passed away. It was very, very unexpected. The poor little boy got West Nile virus that mutated into meningitis, and he just passed away in his sleep. So it was very sudden. And just to show you the quality of the employee that I have, Ben's first call after that happened, was to call me and apologize to me because he wasn't going to make it into work. Like, it was just amazing. I couldn't believe that was even on his radar after his son had passed away. So that really definitely left me in a bind, because I had, a month worth of work scheduled out and the work enough for 2 people scheduled out. And this was October. October is crazy busy for us. October, November, December is our busiest time of the year. So there was no way that I was going to be able to bring someone on, right in the middle of busy season and train them and not have it slow me way down. So first thing I did was to give him as much time off as he needed to grieve, to get counseling, and all that good stuff. I think he and I called each other at least once a day, pretty much that entire time, sometimes twice a day, just to talk. And your mind goes into dark places when a tragedy like that happens. And your best resource when tragedy happens is the people around you. So I had this big load of work to deal with, and talking to you about it and talking to some of the other Flowmies about it, I just came to the conclusion that people are going to understand. People are going to understand if I don't get to them. And if I don't get to them and they're going to get bent out of shape about it, well, that's not my customer then. If they're going to get bent out of shape over something like an issue like this, then that's not my customer. And out of all the work that I had lined up and had to reschedule and whatnot, only one person out of all the work that I had lined up, only one person said, darn it, we really needed to get this done soon. And I was able to send them out to a colleague of mine out here a few miles north of me. So it worked out really well. bringing Ben back on has been very interesting, because that's kind of a process that, nobody knows how it's going to go. You have this tragedy happen. He has, even through all this, he has the desire to work. He just doesn't know if he's going to be able to get through it.
Yeah.
The counseling that he received was very helpful. The counsel was that take the time that you need to grieve, but getting back to work sooner rather than later would be better. You tend to be in your own head too much when you sit around doing nothing. So actually getting back to work and having his hands do something, having his mind do something, I really think helps. It was a very slow process. We started 1 day a week, just 1 day a week. I'm going to call you. It's going to be an easy job. It's going to be cake. I'll be outside with you the whole time. We're going to talk the whole time. It's going to be great. And then after a couple of weeks of that, okay, we're moving up to 2 days a week, and he's starting to do better. We've moved up to about 3 days a week. This is about Thanksgiving now. We've moved up to 3 days a week, and he's got 3 days a week of work where he's doing pretty good. He's got church on Sunday, which really helps. And he's with me 3 days a week, and we're still, talking back and forth pretty much every day. And then 2 days before Thanksgiving, his dad passed away. So that poor family has just had the punches just kept coming. So again, I told him, you take whatever time off you need. This is, my business is not your problem. It's not your concern. I'm not going to be in a bind because my customers are going to understand. This is not something you need to worry about. And of course, he worried about it constantly, because he's just that kind of person. But we did pretty much the same thing after his dad passed away, just gradually increasing the amount of work until he was, back to full strength and handling it. And that really, really seemed to help a lot. It was funny. I've known this man for 10 years, and he and I are good friends. And he seemed to be afraid that because all this was happening, I was going to hire somebody else and he was going to get fired. I don't know where that thought came from, because I never let him to believe that. But
he's thinking as a businessman, and I think that's what makes it.
Right.
That's what makes him. That's what all the good employees. Because I was like that, when I worked for someone, I didn't think of myself as an employee. I thought of myself as an extension of the owner. So I was concerned with his stake in the business as if it were my own. And that's when you have a good worker, because I've had those, and when they think of the business as what is my role in helping the business succeed, as opposed to how much money can I get out of this business. Right. Those are the ones you keep, and those are the ones you do all you can to hang on to.
Sure. Right. I don't expect him to treat it like it's his baby, because it's not, and I can't hold him to that standard. This is my business, and he's never going to, fully treat it like I would. But man, he is so darn close to that. It's unbelievable. It's almost like I have a partner. So I really try to go out of my way to make him feel included. And just create this company culture of two people, that's something unusual. So we have a standing lunch date every Friday, whether it's in between a couple of jobs or after the jobs are over. The business buys us both lunch, and he and I sit down and talk about how the week went. What can we do better? What things can we change? What can we add, and stuff like that.
Nice. I like that.
We do that every week. We got to have our Christmas party a few weeks ago, which was a lot of fun. We went out to a really nice Mexican restaurant out here and went and drove around and looked at Christmas lights afterwards. So it really feels like I have more of a partner than anything else. But the funny thing is, so my goal with an employee has been to basically to arm the employee with as much knowledge and skill and expertise as possible, so that if he decided he wanted to go start up his own business and do his own window cleaning business for his family, he could. I feel like I don't have competitors. I have colleagues. There's more than enough glass to go around. And, the better we all are, the better we all look, And the funny thing is, he's got all this knowledge. He's very, very good at what he does. He has no desire to start his own business. He just has zero desire to deal with the paperwork and the red tape and the back end of stuff. He just wants to put a water-fed pole on some glass and get to work. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't think I could have found anybody better than who I found. And it's going to make hiring the next person really, really hard because I'm going to have high standards now.
Of course. But you know what? If you hire on character, just like what you did, if they can grow up in this culture, then that increases the odds that the new person is going to kind of fall in line. But that also sends you a message, if they're not working out, if they're not fitting in, then you're like, maybe this isn't a good fit.
Right.
I remember I hired a guy, and now I was a little bit bigger. I had about 4 employees at this time, and he ended up staying with me for almost a full year, to his credit. But I didn't, until he left, I didn't realize that I had brought such kind of I hate to say cancer, because it wasn't like he was toxic. He just was very negative. And I didn't realize, because by this time I'm not with all the crews all the time. I'm saying crews out, and I was having 2-man crews at that time. And when I noticed it was, I had sent this guy and then my number 2, and he's very similar to your employee, just very business minded. In fact, he started his own business, so he left me earlier this year he had already started it. He had it for a couple of years, but it was always kind of little. And at the end of the summer, he just told me, I think I have enough work to live off of, Wow. And I wished him well and thanked him for all his work. And it was a big hole to fill, But when he came back one time and told me, he says, man, I just feel really bad after this job. And I said, why? What happened? I'm trying to figure out, thinking it's something wrong. But it turned out it was just, this guy he was negative, and he complained the entire job. And he complained about having to go do, because what it was is they were supposed to be, they were scheduled to work till 2. And then we got a call, and I said, hey, can you guys, since you're done at 2, can you just go take care of this other job? And, my number 2 was like, yeah, absolutely, we'll do it. And the other guy was complaining. Oh, we got to go over here. Oh, it's this house. Oh, I hate this. I hate that, And so I just realized, I'm like, man, I hadn't caught. I knew he was a negative person, but I didn't understand how he was affecting the culture of my business.
Wow.
And when we finally let him go, it was like someone opened the door and all this toxic air went out, and it was like, wow, everyone could breathe, and that taught me a big lesson on, because he was very experienced, he was an experienced cleaner, but that showed me that character always will beat out experience. You can train someone to be a window cleaner. You can't always train someone to be a quality person, quality employee.
Yeah.
And I think in our industry, because we are male dominated, and there's just, I don't think just window clean, but in any kind of contractor where you've got a bunch of professionals who are good at what they do, there's going to be heads that butt, and there's going to be egos involved. There's going to be people who are trying to, have that alpha male mentality of trying to get up to the top. And ITF does a really good job of kind of sifting through that, and those who really want the drama and really want the self-promotion, they don't stay, they leave, and they stay where where they get what they want. But those who do stay, and we have many who perhaps in other groups might have that mentality, but they are very respectful of the environment that we've created here. And I think what that does is, there's some I'm thinking of right now who they contribute, they don't contribute often, but when they do, it's really meaningful, it's really helpful and insightful. And they do it in a way that shows respect to how we run things in this group, even though maybe their tendency might be a little different. But it kind of brings out that helpfulness, in a way, because just by virtue of having those lines drawn as to what's tolerated and what's not, and it allows them to work within those parameters if they're willing. Some are not, and that's okay. We're not saying everybody's got to be a part of ITF, but those who stay and respect the rules. I mean, man, I mean, I get impressed with some of these posts from these individuals who in other groups, I probably didn't have as much respect just because of the way they responded to people. But then hearing them, like, man, they are really insightful. That was a really good answer to some question that they gave,
There's some depth to the well, right?
Yeah, there's some depth. Exactly. But that's also the humanity, right? Because and that's where my fault is to look at someone who may respond in a way negatively and make judgments on them. But then you see them in a different light and you're like, wow, I was totally off base on that judgment, right? That's a lesson that I continually learn when it comes to all these different people that I meet, is learning to identify where their strengths are and then try to help them enhance those strengths, if it's within my power or within my ability. But it's just, I think window cleaning has brought me into contact with so many different people that I never would have, in different types. And it's just really, it's neat and humbling to be able to learn from them and to see, rather than focusing on myself, promotion, self-promotion, I'm this, I'm that, of just taking some time to listen and to observe. It's changed my business, the way I run my business, and it really has just given me a lot of respect for people that I never would have given a second thought to, otherwise.
Yeah. And when you listen, people feel valued and respected. And it goes back to the old saying that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
Yeah.
You can be talking ad nauseum about the depth of knowledge you have on glass restoration and how glass is made, blah, 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 all this stuff. But until someone feels heard and valued, they might not receive some of the things that you would like to share with them too. So it's the power of observation and just giving value to another person when you're with them. I agree. Absolutely. I mean, whenever I went to IWCA for the first time, scared to death. I mean, just because, I show up and like all these guys are all chummy, buddy.
Right.
They've known each other for how many decades of going to these conventions. And this was my first time there. And I remember finding a group of like-minded people in the industry, but also just with a value system. There were 3 other fellows there. Boy, we had a really, really impactful time on it with each other. And that was really special. So it's
what year was that?
That was 2016, I believe it was.
Okay.
My first one was in Scottsdale.
Okay. Yeah, that was my first one too. Although I didn't go to I just went to the trade show.
Okay.
I drove up from Tucson since it was so close, and I just bought tickets for the trade. So walked in, looked around, didn't know anybody. No one knew me. I just felt like I was walking around in a mall. Didn't buy nothing. Came back home. My wife was like, "How was it?" I was like, I guess it was okay. I saw a bunch of squeegees. Didn't buy nothing, so that was interesting.
So now I go back each year and I look forward to certain people of like, oh yeah, I get to see these people and catch up again. And I try to also be mindful that there's probably another Dan Rinard out there somewhere floating around that's this first year there. So it's nice to give out those first year tag things so that you can recognize that person, include them, make them feel welcome as well. Because it's tough being the new guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I just totally felt. Of course, at the time, when I went, it was the same year, 2016. I was just starting to grow. So my business, I had been single owner operator since 2000. All the way up until about 2013. I think was when I hired my first guy. And then even then, I backed off right after I hired him. I think he quit, and I was like, I didn't hire for a little bit, and then I hired again. And I kept like kind of dipping my toe into, getting bigger. And we had my daughter. That was the whole reason. That was the whole, if I hadn't had my daughter, I would still be a single owner operator. But we had her. There's a lot more expenses that came. Her health, nothing super dangerous, but it was concerning. We had to have some surgeries. We had to have a lot of doctor's visits. So I was like, I can't support the family off of what I'm making here. So I had to grow the business. And getting back to meeting people, like you said, it wasn't that one. The first one, I didn't meet nobody. I think it was San Diego is where I met 2 people, Michael Draper and Nando Medina, who's one of the mods, with ITF. And I met a bunch of other people in that one, but those are the two that I remembered. And Nando, just to, like I said, getting to know people better. At first, he came off very brash. He was just he just kind of was out there. He had guys with him, and he was just real like, I own this place, Yeah. And so just at first sight, I didn't really,
right?
not even intimidating, just
the same uniforms, and it appeared very intimidating. Like, what am I doing?
He just wasn't my cup of tea at first, just from what I was already judging him to be, And then we were in the same, it was the Sunbelt training class. And so we got certified together, and he sat next to me, and we just talked, and I got to know him, and I was like, man, actually, this guy's pretty cool. This guy actually is pretty down to earth, and we had a good conversation, and he was, next time you're in California, come visit me, this and that, but then we ended up following each other on Facebook after that. And then we, got into ITF together. And then after that, I mean, now we're, we know each other really well, and we work together so often with ITF and other things. And now he's in the IWCA, he's on the board. And so we're even having more dealings with him. And so he's definitely a friend that I would not have made had I had that attitude of, oh, well, I'm better than him, or I'm, where I would have been trying to compare my skills or my business with his. We never would have become a friendship, or had a friendship.
That's the danger, is, and it's natural. No matter what industry you're in, it's just a natural thing, a comparison.
Yeah.
I'm from New Hampshire. For some people, it's a little tiny state next to Maine.
What's that little box there?
Yeah, it's a little tiny, little pizza shaped, little small state right next to Maine. We're geographically, we're an hour north of Boston.
Okay.
So we can be in the city.
Just an hour away, man.
Yep. We can be in the city pretty fast. I can usually be on the mountain skiing in 45 minutes, and I can be at the beach in 30 minutes. So
wow.
We've got the lakes region that I can be there in about 20 minutes, so we got lakes and the mountains, we got the ocean, we got the city, all within an hour's drive, so it's a really cool place to be. But when I went to the first, comparison, my general service area is the seacoast of New Hampshire, southern Maine, kind of a little bit into Massachusetts, but mostly the seacoast of New Hampshire. So, the general area might be like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, or along I-95. You might have, 30 or 40,000 people that reside there, right? And so it's important not to get pulled into the fact that someone who is servicing New York City or Philadelphia or Boston or a major city, and they've got like a warehouse and they've got 10 trucks or 12 or 15 trucks on the road, like, what am I doing wrong? Well, that's even in ministry. I was a youth minister for a while, and you look at certain churches. Why do certain churches only have 25 people in it? And why are there churches with 5,000 or 10,000 people in it? Well, these places are often in major, metropolitan areas. So you should be growing and scaling according to your base as well. So comparing usually leaves one feeling defeated. So the best.
Well, and often both
to applaud people when they're succeeding.
Often both of them are depressed, because we're always comparing the thing that we feel more insecure about with the other person's, what they're excelling at. And they're sometimes doing the same thing, to us. They're looking at us and saying, oh, I wish, this, and that's just the human tendency, so it doesn't help anything. It doesn't do any good really to compare, unless you're asking them specifically how you can be better in a certain thing. That's different. Now you're asking for instruction.
And appreciating their accomplishments, and like, maybe this person can help me get to my next stage of growth.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
and it takes time to get there as well. But I did meet one of the newbies. I said there were like 4 newbies at my first IWCA. One of those gentlemen gave me his airline points and flew me out to Colorado
Wow.
I'd never been to Colorado. He flew me out to Colorado, let me stay with him and his wife, and we went skiing and went to I got to meet some of his people, and that was just after one connection at an IWCA. I'm like, the brotherhood that exists when there's not that spirit of fighting and competing and egos, but when you're open-handed and like just welcoming, it's amazing that even just one person, my first connection, here's a guy that I got to go ski Breckenridge, and like it was a dream come true.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So that was pretty cool. But
well, we got off track, as that often happens. But that's okay, because that's what we're all about here. It's just getting to know you better. The most important things that we're talking about, right, is the stuff of life. Absolutely.
Window cleaning. Like I can say, here's my squeegee that I use, or this is the kind of towel that's the best. But at the end of the day, we do what works in our company, right? So
absolutely.
But how did I get started? I feel like I think there was a Johnny Cash song that said something about "I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere." I was a mason's tender at one point. I went to trade school to be I took carpentry and cabinet making.
No kidding.
So I spent some time in the carpentry field for a while. I thought when I graduated high school that's what I was going to do. I was a volunteer firefighter at the time, and I was planning on working carpentry for a while, and I did. I got into that, and in high school I was waiting tables, and between college I was like a fry cook. It's like I've had experience in a lot of different industries, a lot of different life skills, if you will. And I felt the call to go into ministry. So whenever I was out of high school for about a year, and then I went to Bible college and finished that up and got my diploma, and became a youth minister for about 6 years. I was in youth ministry, and those were some really good times. As hanging out with teenagers. We started a youth group in this little small town called Milton, New Hampshire. It was a little cow town. It was just, we'd get people from out of state come. There's some lakes there, so they would come and on the weekend and play on the lake and then go home. But really, as far as the town goes, there wasn't much cooking. And we started the youth group there with 4 teenagers, and when we left, there was over 60 strong.
Wow.
Every week, and there were 17 schools represented. So I got to go into out of all 17 schools, all but 2 said that I could come in and have lunch with our students. So that was a lot of fun to go into schools and hang out and eat lunch with their students. So whenever I stopped doing that, I had my trade to fall back on. So I went back into carpentry and cabinet making, and but I was working in a manufactured home facility.
Okay.
And I was pulling 12-hour shifts there. I was working a lot of times from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. Working super hard and doing my best, and wasn't getting compensated a lot. And I would watch them fire good guys and promote like knuckleheads. And I'm like, oh, what the what's going on here? And while I was there, this was 1998, 99, I guess, probably around that time. I was reading a book that I saw on the Oprah Winfrey show, and the book was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
I got home in time to see Oprah. I went to work early, but I got home, early. And Robert Kiyosaki was on there, and there was, and I am a person that if I sit down to read, I fall asleep.
Oh, okay.
It's not for lack of wanting.
Great.
Or I gather my knowledge in other ways, right? If I sit down to read, I fall asleep. So I was reading this guy's book on all my lunch breaks and everything at work. And whenever I got home, anytime I couldn't put the book down. Because I was raised, I wasn't wealthy. I know what government cheese tastes like. I qualified for the free lunch program.
Quesadillas, man. Quesadillas all day.
Yeah, I know. I know what I couldn't drink real milk after we got off. After I got out of the system, because I didn't you have powder and then you add water to it, and now you've got milk for your cereal.
Right,
and
right.
to drink real milk after that, I was like, what is this gross stuff? I guess you get used to that government stuff, But my dad was a very hardworking man. He supported a family of 6 of us on a manufacturer's salary. He just worked an assembly line all of his life. He was a hardworking and a good man. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she definitely could make a dollar stretch. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anyone handle money quite like my mom. My dad would just sign his check over. She would cash it and put it in envelopes for giving and for bills or whatever. And then when the time came, I guess she put it in the bank and then wrote out a check. It was her way of doing it, but she did very well. We didn't go beyond our means, but so the struggle was there. So when I'm reading this book, I'm relating to this guy that says, my friend was poor. His dad, but his dad was educated, right? And said, you got to go and, you got to get all these degrees and you'll be successful and stuff. And this other guy saying, well, you can invent something, or there's another way of doing it. And I'm sitting there and I'm just taken in this book of new thoughts now starting to process. I remember my dad not too many years ago, even as an old man, when I would go down to visit my parents, we went to this fancy store at the end of town that sold wines and cheeses and and we bought some stuff to bring up to the house, and because it didn't come from the local discount grocery store, he's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, I thought I'd buy some nice things and bring over to you. And he said, quote, we are poor. We have always been poor, and we will always be poor.
Wow.
That was his statement to me. And I was like, huh, all right. But that was just recently. This was after I'd started my business and everything else.
Sure,
I remember
sure.
telling Dad whenever he was at his last manufacturing job, I said, Dad, if you put a carport on the side of your house, everybody in town loved my dad's detail work. He would detail people's cars for him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Dad, you could get a little side hustle. You could get something going here. And no, his dream job was this place in town. And then that place shut down and moved out of town. I'm like, oh. But that book, I was really, thinking like, if you do this, then this will happen, right? Mm-hmm. If you work hard for somebody and you do a good job, you will be promoted. And I was at this carpentry job looking around saying, this isn't the case. This isn't the case. So I thought, what if I worked hard for myself?
We're running against the clock here. I think we probably got about 10-15 minutes left. There's a couple more things I wanted to go through here. One, the reason we ended up on this chat together, I wanted to do an interview with my nominee for the Flowmie Award. As you know, this is the first year we did the Flowmie Awards. You pick, as an administrator, we each picked one person that kind of embodied the what it is to be a Flowmie, what it is to be into the flow community, being helpful, being positive. But there's a lot more to it than that for me. And, you're always someone that I respected in the groups right from the get-go. And it wasn't even in the Into the Flow group. We interacted in the Pro Window group probably 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. But you were one of those people. I have a pretty good BS radar. So you have to sort through a lot of the BS in that group, but I also have a good radar for someone who knows what they're talking about. And you were always one of those people that kind of struck me as, all right, this guy, he's highly skilled. He's intelligent. He knows this business inside and out. And, he's made the rounds enough. So every time I would see something, a post pop up where someone was looking for advice and I would see a comment from you in there, it was just one that I was always drawn to because I knew I knew that you knew what you were talking about. And when you said you were going to start your own business, I was so excited. I was so happy for you, because I just assumed you had your own business right from the jump based on your experience. And to watch you take your business from 2019, where, like I said, the economy was at a peak, and then to survive through one of the most tumultuous years, 2 years, that the United States has ever gone through, is really just a testament to your resilience, your work ethic, your dedication, and your skill. So I just wanted to give you kind of a minute to just tell me how what does that mean to you to get that award? And it's yours. The stage is yours.
It means a whole lot. And, the nice words you just said about me, I still have a hard time seeing it as it's a testament of anything but my dumb luck that I made it this far so far. But I do appreciate you, at a time when, we were both in the pro group a lot at that point, I really did want to help. I felt I had been kind of blessed with meeting some really knowledgeable old dogs in the industry. And, the questions that I would always respond to weren't questions that they weren't new. Basically, they were questions that I asked at some point, and the knowledge that I gave them was the answer that somebody else gave me. I felt like anything I've learned in my job, whether it's experience or education, it's knowledge that I'm renting. It's only fair to give it to somebody else. And so that's why I've never really had a problem jumping in and being that BSing with people and giving my opinions or, my experience with some of the situations they run into. Mm-hmm. And, for you guys to kind of pick me out for that, to me, it didn't even seem like something that was that special. I just, like I said, I felt like I was just passing, like playing Chinese telephone. I'm just passing the information that was given to me on down the line.
But it seemed like something in those particular groups and in those particular interactions where someone was asking for advice or someone was asking for, just a little bit of more experience. And oftentimes the good stuff, like you and others would contribute, would get drowned out by the bad stuff. And it was just, that was one thing that was frustrating to me, where every good comment you get where someone was actually trying to be helpful, you'd get 5 negative comments or 5 trolls who just came in to bash the person and call them an idiot because they don't know. And I just dealt with this yesterday on another group where someone was asking a simple question about how to reinsert the clips in the Sorbo channel. And I remember the first time I got my first Sorbo channel, I wasn't paying attention when I took the rubber out. I just ripped the rubber out. One clip fell on the ground, and then I was like, oh, I went to put the other one back in, and I'm looking at it like, I don't like which little knob does it slide over? Does it go in the front or the back? Like, I'd never dealt with a channel like that before. So it took me a couple seconds and a few tries to figure it out. And these, people just jumped down this guy's throat. Sure. And it's frustrating to me to watch someone that is reaching out to a group of professionals for a little bit of advice and just a small little tip like that, and just to have people jump down their throat and be so negative and demeaning to them. But you were never that person, and that's one of the things that drew me to you early on. And it's not just your knowledge and your dedication to helping the window community, but like I said, your resilience. You've also dealt with your own personal health struggles while trying to maintain and start up a business, and you've managed to come out on top of that. And I admire that so much, your resilience and your ability to overcome all these obstacles that have been thrown in your way. So that's the reason why I nominated you for the award, is just, you just keep coming back. And it's just such a pleasure to watch someone just keep overcoming every little hurdle that's thrown in their way. You love to see it.
I do just keep coming back. My mom used to complain about that all the time too. I really do appreciate the kind words. And honestly, what the Flowmie Award means to me more than anything is being recognized by a group of people that I admire greatly for many different and also many similar reasons. You, Gabe, Kevin, Beba, Sarah, the whole ITF crew, Joel, there's and even people that aren't admins. The spirit of ITF is kind of like what you were talking about. The spirit of ITF is we're going to help each other. We're going to build each other up. We're going to, we're going to crack jokes. We're not always going to agree, but we're going to try to find a way to work it out.
But we celebrate each other's successes, which is also a big thing. And then, watching you've succeeded in the last 2 years at doing something that a lot of people don't succeed at. A lot of people go out on their own and they'll fail. And a lot of people that were faced with the circumstances you were faced with in the last 2 years between the pandemic and your own personal issues that you had to deal with health wise. I know you spent quite a bit of time in the hospital trying to get your body right. Some people I would say not some people, most people will not overcome that. And it's just a testament to your character and to who you are, which is really, it's a special thing. So it is to be celebrated. And I'm just happy to have the opportunity to nominate you for that.
It is much appreciated, Corey. I really do thank you for that. And
well, you deserve it.
I'm in my office now. Otherwise, I'd show you my Flowmie award. As embarrassing as it might be, it's on my nightstand in my bedroom. It's got the place of
no embarrassment. No embarrassment. I got my little trophies and my little knickknacks up and around as well. But yeah. So there's one last thing here, and we're up against the clock. I just wanted to do. There's one last little fun thing. It's a little rapid fire. It's just I'm gonna give you two options. You're gonna just shout one out. All right, it's all window cleaning related, or close to window cleaning related. There's a couple little oddball things in here, but hopefully we spark a little bit of a discussion here to wrap up with. So here we go. You ready? You ready to rock? Dish soap or window solution?
Window solution. That's new.
Ettore or Unger?
Ettore.
Pole or ladder?
Ladder.
Surgical cloth, microfiber?
Surgical.
Hard rubber, soft rubber?
Soft.
Residential or commercial?
Resi.
Gutter cleaning, soft washing?
Soft washing.
Storefront, high rise?
Storefront for me.
All right. Construction cleaning or glass restoration?
Run away. Construction cleaning. Yes.
Construction clean. I'm with you on that one. All right, here's the last one. Ready to we're going to set the alarms off here. Traditional or water fed?
Oh, well, let me just put it to you this way. I didn't get He-Man. I got my Skeletor and my He-Man pictures, and I didn't get Skeletor with the water fed tattooed on my leg. I got He-Man with the squeegee. So I won't say the word
squeegee.
But I'm just gonna, try. I love my water fed stuff, but I'm always gonna be a trad guy until I'm not rocking anything anymore.
I'm with you on that one. I had a feeling you were going to go that route. The water fed is an amazing tool, though. I will say I've been in the water fed side for almost 4 years now. I'm going into my 4th year now, and it's really a time saver on so many different things. Especially, I deal with a lot of cut ups, deal with a lot of salt where I'm at, coming off the water. The ocean does a number on the glass, and it really just cuts through a lot of that stuff so much quicker. But I love putting my tool belt on and loading up my squeegees, and I'm a trad guy till I die. There's no way around that.
And and I will say this about water fed. I think a lot of the times you get guys that they try it once or twice. They obviously don't have the skill level with the tools as they do with their trad stuff. And frankly, it's just the path of least resistance to keep doing what you know best. But honestly, once I started actually practicing with it a little more and kind of looking into what, other than just here's my cart, here's my pole, here's my brush, what other accessories, what other things like a pump or, a steel or a bronze wool scrub pad, what other things can I add to this? And it just keeps getting better and better from that standpoint. But
it does.
From a satisfaction standpoint, nothing like a squeegee. You don't get
nothing like a squeegee.
Customers with a water-fed pole. That's all I'm saying.
And you're face to glass. You can you see it in real time from the ground. It's got to drip dry, and then you got to go back and inspect it. It's not the immediate instant gratification with the water-fed pole that it is with the squeegee, but it's also the art of window cleaning. I think is in the squeegee, and
Absolutely.
the water-fed pole. I'll tell you what, I'm very spoiled using the water-fed pole, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, I'm gonna throw the ladder up. I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna do it by hand. And it might not be always the quickest route, but I'm still, until I can't climb the ladder anymore or throw it up on my shoulder, I'm gonna keep climbing. I'm gonna keep squeegeeing.
It's part
until
of
the day I die, because I love.
Absolutely, it keeps me younger. It keeps me in shape. It's fun. It's a way for me to enjoy my day. But I will admit, there are more and more jobs that I'm looking at. Do I pull the 40-foot off the truck? Of course not. Let's get the water fed going here. So I'm at a point now where I think anything 3-piece stack or lower, I'm probably going to still end up doing trad, unless we're talking just a huge job or a lot of French panes. But anything above that, water fed pole, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I still find, a lot of guys swear by the speed of the water-fed pole, not having to put the ladder up. But on 2 stories and under, on a lot of windows, I still feel that I'm faster. I'm faster traditional than I am with the pole. Especially like if I'm on a job with a bunch of casement windows, or even 1/1 double hung windows, I feel like I'm gonna blow away the water-fed pole with the traditional. And maybe it's, maybe I'm just still too new to the water-fed pole. I don't have that speed that some of these guys have, but tell you what, I put that ladder up and just fly around the house, and I just as soon do that, 7 days a week if I'm on those jobs than to take the pole out and try to do them, because it doesn't seem as quick to me sometimes.
I think you're onto something with the whole skill level where you and I are at. I remember doing a job with my old crew, and we had a ton of blackout glass windows to do. And it was basically a 3rd-story commercial building. We had the water fed set up on one side, and I was just kind of supervising for the most part. So just as to play a fun little game, somehow we got into I've got my old-fashioned aluminum pole with my Ed-Ray backflip on it, and they've got the water fed pole, and we're going to do a little race, like John Henry versus the machine here. And I ended up winning that race. But honestly, it was me at that point, maybe 17, 18 years in as a window cleaner, versus some guys who are still learning not only just their equipment, but their trade in general. So, there is something to consider there, that I think once you and I and guys like us start getting more and more experience and practice with that technology, I think it's going to become definitely more viable. And it will be.
You're probably right. But we'll hang on to that belt as long as we can hang on to that.
That's exactly it. I'm never selling
as long as it's still. Absolutely.
All right, Flowmies. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed those 3 interviews. As always, it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys and to be able to share these stories with you. So hope you enjoyed it. Next week will be another best of episode. Look forward to seeing you then. But until then, as always, flow on.